In this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to use the Divi module customizer. Now, Divi comes with two customizers: the theme customizer, which is used to adjust site-wide settings like the body and header text of your entire website. But on the other hand, there's also the module customizer, which is used to adjust the styles of individual modules across the entire website. For example, if you don't like the size of the slider, maybe you want to make it a little smaller, you think all of your sliders are taking up a bit too much space, well, you can head over to the module customizer, reduce that padding, maybe reduce the size of the header text, and so on, and then every time you add a new slider, it's going to adhere to those styles. So first things first, let's access the module customizer, and to do that you're going to want to head over to your WordPress dashboard and then find the Divi link, hover over it, and then click the module customizer button. This is going to load up the module customizer, and on the left you're going to see a list of all the modules that come with Divi, and if you open up any of these tabs you're going to get a list of settings for that module, and these settings are limited to usually text sizes, styles, and also some spacing adjustments. Of course, you can always adjust just about anything related to a module by opening up the module settings, the individual module settings, and adjusting the advanced settings in the advanced settings tab. But if you want to do something a little bit quicker and simpler, and like I said, adjust basic font styles and spacing, then you can do so in the the module customizer. And when you edit something in the module customizer, it affects the modules on your entire website. So it's if you want to make one change site-wide, this is a much better way to do it. So like I said, let's say I wanted to reduce the size of this slider. Well, I can head over to the full width slider panel here, which will reveal the various settings that are available for this module, and I can reduce the padding by sliding down the padding. I can reduce the header size, and I can even adjust some styling here. Maybe I want to make it bold and all caps like that. And you can see with a few clicks here we've done everything that we wanted. We reduced the size, changed the style a little bit, reduced the header size, and now every time I make a new slider it's going to look like that. So, and you can kind of do this for just about every module. So heading into, let's say, the blurbs, if you want to make all your blurbs titles a little bit bigger or smaller, you can do that, and you can see the live change here. And yep, you can do the same thing for just about every module. So here I have my counters. Head over to the number counter, and I can adjust the font styles here. So maybe I don't want it to be underlined, maybe I want it to be a little bit bigger or smaller, maybe smaller and bold would look nice. Yep. So yep, you can do that for just about every module, like I said. So yeah, I'm not going to bother going through every single module here because most of the settings are pretty similar, and what you can do is pretty similar. So if you ever find yourself wanting to adjust the style of a certain module, to head over to the module customizer and take a look at the settings that are available to you. In this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to use the Divi theme customizer to customize the appearance of your website for specific mobile devices. The Divi theme customizer allows you to adjust text sizes, header sizes, and spacing for individual mobile device types. So you can have a different, sized body font on smartphones if you think that, maybe the text needs to be a little bit bigger to be easier to read. And then maybe you want a little bit less big on tablet and maybe a little bit even smaller on desktop. So you can adjust all those accordingly, as well as different padding and height values on your site. So to get started, we're going to enter the theme customizer by going to the WordPress dashboard. Look for the Divi tab here, and then click the theme customizer link. And this will launch the theme customizer with all the hundreds of settings that we have here. But in this tutorial, I'm going to be focusing just on the mobile styles panel, which has all the mobile styling options. If you want to learn about all this other stuff, we have separate tutorials for general settings, header navigation, buttons, and so on, as well as just a general overview tutorial of the theme customizer. So be sure to check those out if you want to learn more. And in this case, I'm going to be clicking on the mobile styles panel to launch the mobile styles customizer. And as you see, it gives you a nice preview here depending on what type of style you're editing. So if you want to edit phone styles, it's going to shrink down and give you a phone size preview. If you want to edit tablet styles is going to expand back to a tablet style size. And so we have various settings here that we can adjust. We can increase the body font size, increase or decrease the header size as well. And then in addition, you can adjust the spacing between sections and rows. So if you want to decrease this or increase it, maybe you think that there's too much wasted space here for your taste, you can bring down the section height and also the row heights as well. So you can adjust the distance between individual rows, as you can see there, all the way down to nothing if you like, and as well as sections. And if any time you don't like what you've done, you want to go back to the default styles, just click these reset buttons and it'll revert all the changes you've made. Next is you can go into the phone and also adjust these independently from the tablet style. So all of these will work on their own and overwrite each other as you reduce your screen size down to each of these breakpoints. And again, you can do the same stuff. You can increase and decrease the body and header font size, as well as the section padding and row padding. Finally, we have the mobile menu. When your site breaks down to mobile device size, the menu changes, and it gives you the standard hamburger icon, and the menu slides down altogether, unlike how you see in desktop where all the links are in a row here, and they each have their own drop-down menus. But you can customize all of this as well, so you can change the background color if you like, and change the text color like that. And you can hide the logo image as well, which I might want to do at this point because my logo image doesn't go so good with this background color. I'd probably want to upload a white image in this case if I was going for a dark blue background. Yep, that's a basic overview of the mobile styles customization in the theme customizer. And you can see here how you can create different mobile experiences for different devices using the customizer settings. In this tutorial, I'm going to be giving you an overview of the Divi full-width header module, which is one of the most versatile modules in the Divi collection because it has so many different layout possibilities. And I think you'll find yourself using the full-width header module for various situations throughout your website, and maybe not even just for headers. So the most basic application of the header module is to place some header text at the very top of your page. And in this case, this page is a perfect example of a page that's in need of a header, because between my blurbs here and the menu, there's really nothing to signify what this page is about. So if someone lands on this page, they're going to be quite confused, having to read paragraphs of text to figure out what's going on. So I'm going to want to give this a nice title, maybe welcome them to my page, and the full-width header module is the perfect way to do that. So I'm going to edit this page to bring up the Divi builder, and then I'm going to add a new full-width section, because since we're dealing with a full-width header module, it needs to be placed inside of a full-width section. So I add that full-width section, drag it to the top of the page, click Insert Module, and look for the full-width header module. And it's going to bring up the full-width header module settings, of which there are quite a few, but in its most basic form, you only need to fill out a couple of these settings, which is the title, which is the main header text. So I'm just going to say, welcome to my website. I'm going to give some subheading, which is like a smaller bit of text below the title, and this is optional, but I'm going to add it in this case. And then you're going to want to give your text a text color, whether it be light or dark, and probably assign a background color to the module as well, if you so choose. And in this case, I'm going to do that. I'm going to make my text color light, and then give my full-width header a purple background color. And there we have it. We have a very basic header here. Just some text and a background color, and it's going to span the full width of the page, since it is a full width header module. And so let me show you what that looks like. So we have it. And this is a great way to kind of just to introduce your visitors to the page using the full width header module. And so now that I've shown you kind of like the most basic application, let's explore a lot of those other settings to see how this module can be expanded in so many different ways. So I'm going to go back here and take a look at some of these other settings and explain to you what they do. First, we have text and logo orientation. This is going to affect where your text is located on the page, whether it be left, right, or center. So I could center it if I wanted, or put it to the right. In this case, I'm going to make it centered. Next is the full screen option. What this will do is automatically extend the module to be the full height and the full width of the screen. And so no matter what size your browser window is, that module is going to adapt to the size. And this is a great way to kind of create a what is a very common like splash screen effect on the home page of your website, where you create this full screen kind of introductory block, and it fills the whole screen, and it makes it really easy for your visitors to digest what's going on the page. So they see your title, your logo, maybe like a button, a call to action button to either scroll down the screen or sign up to your service or whatever you're trying to do. So I'm going to make this full screen just to give you an idea what that looks like, and I'm going to save just what I have there because those are two pretty big changes. So I'm going to show you what that does exactly. And so when I go back to my page, this is what we had before. I'm going to refresh, and it's going to make this text centered, and it's also going to make it full screen. So there you go. It gets centered both vertically and horizontally. It gets placed in the center, and this is just like a beautiful way to be introduced to a website. It's very simple and very clear to the visitor, and then they can scroll down to see the rest of the website. And like I said, if you make this browser smaller, it's all going to adapt automatically on the fly. So now let's take a look at a few of the other options. Moving down here, we can add a scroll down button. That's just like a little arrow that appears at the bottom of the section, just to remind your visitors that there's more content down there to explore. That even though it looks like this full screen is all that's there, maybe they don't notice there's a scroll bar on the right. Well, we can add a little nice icon there, and that's gonna tell them to go downward, and also if they click it, it's gonna automatically bring them down to the next section. So let's turn that on and just choose kind of a standard down arrow icon. You can also add a button. So if you want to add a button and have it do something, for example, if whatever service you have, you want to invite them to sign up to your service, request a quote or whatever, this is a great place to do that. So I'm going to say request a quote today. I'm going to add a URL. And you can add two buttons, so you can also add a second button if you like. I'm just going to do the one for now. And you can upload a background image too. So if you decide you'd rather have a background image instead of a background color, that's fine. And if you do upload a background image, you can also do a background color overlay over that image. So in this case, let's say I'm going to choose a nice background image here, maybe this image of this woman in the field. And I want to maybe put an overlay over that to tone it down a little bit, and so my text shows up a little better. Because I think right now the white text over this light yellow image is going to be hard to read, and so we can just put an overlay on top of that. And I'm just going to make it, let's see here, give it kind of a blue-gray color like this. I'm going to bring down the alpha transparency there, maybe to around 50%. And then we'll see what that looks like. And then I'll probably want to make this something a little bit less vibrant. And you can also choose to use a parallax effect. So if you turn that on, you're going to be able to choose between two parallax methods, true parallax or CSS. And what that does is kind of create an illusion of movement and depth as you scroll down the page. The parallax image in the background will move at a slightly different pace than you're scrolling. And like I said, it creates that illusion of depth. And so I'm going to save and exit and take a look at what we've created so far. So if you remember, this is what we had before, and what I changed here is that I added a background image, I added a button, and I added an overlay color. So if we refresh, we're going to take a look at that. See, I have my image, and you can see it's been kind of muted and toned down by that kind of blue-gray overlay at 50% opacity. I have a button here, it's kind of a standard button. And I also have this scroll down button, and when you click this, you're going to be brought down to the next step. And like I said, it has a parallax effect attached to it, so you can see that the image is just moving at a slightly different pace, and it just creates this really nice subtle effect there. So moving back to these options, there's a few more things to consider. One is that you, in addition to your logo or to your text, you can also upload a logo image. And what a logo image is it's an image placed above your text. And so if you have an image you'd like to place above your text, you can do that. So I have like just a nice Divi logo here, and I can upload that, and that'll be placed above the text. You can also choose your vertical alignment, which there's vertical and horizontal alignment settings, but vertical alignment is where your text and logo are centered vertically. And I'm going to keep that centered because I think that looks quite nice. So I'm going to save, and maybe we'll explore a different vertical alignment in a moment. So I've added that logo image. You can see it gets placed above the text. Moving on to some more settings. In addition to adding a logo image, which is typically a smaller image placed above your text, you can have a larger image placed below your text as well, or to the right or the left of your text, depending on how your text and image are oriented. And so that would be the header image. So I can upload a header image as well. And you can upload any image you like, so I'm just going to choose this. And since I'm uploading an image, I'm probably going to want to tone down that background a bit more, so I'm going to bring down the opacity here, make it a little more muted, and then I've added a header image which is going to be placed below my text, and then I can choose the vertical alignment, which I'm going to keep that centered for now. And then in addition, you can add a paragraph of text as well to be placed below your main title and subhead. So I'll do that next, but let's just take a look at what this header image looks like. So now when I refresh, I have this header image placed below the logo and the title, and I've really bumped up that background overlay, which looks a lot nicer now. So we just have a very, very subtle background image, and then this header image below it. Now, like I said, you can change the alignment of these things too. So if you want to put your text and logo to the left or right, you can do that as well. So let's try putting it to the left and see what kind of new effect that creates. So here we have it centered, and when we put it to the left, it's going to be placed to the left of the image. And so in this case, when I'm trying to put so much content in the header, sometimes this looks nicer, just depending on how big your logo image is. Maybe if my logo image was a little smaller, it might fit a little better above that image. Or if this image was, a little bit less tall, it might fit a little better centered. In this case, this right and left orientation looks quite nice. Now, in addition to being able to control where this is located, you can also control where this image is located independently of where the text and logo is located. And so you'll notice there are a couple different vertical alignment settings. One's for the text and logo, and then one is for the image. So you move down here, image vertical alignment, and you can choose centered or bottom. And if I choose bottom, it's going to always stick to the bottom of the section, which is nice if you want to create that effect. Like often this is used to kind of create the illusion that the image is sitting behind the section below it. Like maybe you have like an iPad or an iPhone or something, and it's coming up, from below this section. That's how you would do that. You choose the bottom alignment, especially when you combine that with a parallax background image like we have here. It really looks like that image is kind of sitting below the section below it, and so that's quite a cool effect. And so you can see how you can kind of combine these different settings to create a bunch of different layouts. You can have actually over 20 different layouts. You can have the text left, right, top, bottom, vertically aligned in different locations, and you can have the image independently vertically aligned in different locations as well. And depending on how you combine that, you might get the image on the left, image in the left center, logo on the right, logo centered, and so on. So yeah, that's a basic overview of the header module general settings. And there's also a ton of advanced settings that you can use as well. And I'm not going to go over all of these right now. If you'd like to learn more about our advanced design settings, be sure to check out our advanced design settings tutorial. as well as our custom CSS settings tutorial. But as a general philosophy, everything you need to create a really great full width header module is already in the general settings, but if you want like additional control, you really want to customize it, then you can move on to the advanced design settings and kind of tweak things using all of the advanced design controls that we've created here. For example, you can customize everything about the button and the size of the font, and the fonts themselves, the font styles, and all of that great stuff. So yep, that's a basic overview of the full width header module. In this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to use the Divi code module. Now, the code module is basically a blank canvas that allows you to put shortcodes or static HTML into your post. So instead of using a text module or adding it to some other module, this just gives you a complete blank slate. For example, if you're using a slider plugin, a third-party slider plugin, and you'd like to place their slider inside of Divi, we'll just input a code module, copy it, and paste their shortcode, and you're going to have their slider display beautifully. You could even put it in a full width code module, so there's a full width code module available as well. So if you're using some other slider plugin, and you want to have a full width slider that you think works a little bit better for your website than the Divi slider, just input a full width code module, copy and paste that shortcode in, and it's going to work great. So that's what the code module is for. I'm going to give you an example. So I'm using the Bloom plugin, or Bloom email opt-in plugin, and Bloom lets you generate an email opt-in form as a shortcode and put it anywhere on your website. So here I have a blog post, and at the bottom of this blog post I would like to invite people to sign up to my newsletter using Bloom, and I can do that using the shortcode and the code module. So I'm going to head over to my dashboard and go to the Bloom opt-in forms. And you can see I've created an opt-in form here. If you're not familiar with Bloom, that's okay. I'm just going here to grab the shortcode. So here's the form I'd like to add. I'm going to copy and paste this shortcode. So a lot of plugins work this way. They'll generate shortcodes for you, and you can place them on your site. So I've copy and pasted that shortcode. Now I'm going to edit the post and scroll down to the bottom. And I'm going to replace that call to action with a new section. I'm going to input a single one column row, and then I'm going to scroll down to the code module here. And there's only one field in the code module, which is the content. I'm going to copy and paste that shortcode. You can also adjust your admin label and CSS ID and CSS class if you like, but I'm not going to bother with that right now. So I'm going to input my shortcode, update the page, and now when I refresh, you're going to see that shortcode has been used to display my opt-in form at the bottom of the page. So I'm going to scroll down, I'm going to get the post here, and there you see the opt-in form. Yep, so that's a basic overview of the Divi code module that you can use to input shortcodes and code anywhere that you use the Divi builder. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to export your Divi library from one website and then import it into a new website. This can be particularly useful if you're a freelance WordPress developer and you're starting a new build for a new client and you want to bring that Divi library that you've spent so much time building over to the new website, so you don't have to start from scratch. You can start using all of your pre-made layouts, all your saved modules, sections, and rows, and so on. So exporting the Divi library is quite easy. Just go over to the Divi section here in your WordPress dashboard, and then click the Divi library link. At the top here, you're going to see an Export Divi Layouts tab. Click that to bring down the export dialog, and then select any or all of the library types that you'd like to export: layouts, sections, rows, and modules. I'm just going to export all of them. You can export just one of them or a combination of them if you like. And then click the Download Export File link. This is going to download an XML file to your computer, and then you're going to want to upload that to your new website. So head over to your new website, go back to your dashboard, and then you're going to want to import that file using the WordPress importer. So under Tools, click the Import link, and then click the WordPress link. And this is going to prompt you to install the WordPress importer if you haven't already installed it. So go ahead and install the WordPress importer plugin, and click the Activate Plugin and Run Importer link. And this is going to bring you to a new page with a upload button, and you're going to want to click the Choose File button and select that XML file from your computer that you just downloaded from your other website. So once you've selected that XML file, click the Upload File and Import button, and that's going to bring you to a new page where you can assign an author to these posts, or they're technically post types. So if you want to assign yourself as the author, you can do that, or if you don't, it's going to create a new author account, and then just click Submit, and there you go. In my case, I'm just uploading these to the same site, so I'm getting all these warnings that these layouts already exist. That's because I already have these items in my library, but in your case, you'll be starting fresh. And then once you have uploaded all of your items and you head over to your Divi library, you're going to see that everything has been loaded in here. And that's how you import and export Divi library items. In this tutorial, I'm going to be giving you an overview of Divi rows and the row options that come with them. Now, a row is the main organizational element in Divi, and it's how you create columns. So, Divi is made up of sections, rows, and modules. Sections are your largest organizational element, and sections contain rows inside of them. So, for example, here is a section with a white background, and inside of it I have two rows, this one here and this one here, and each of those rows have 3 columns. And inside each of the columns I have a single module. And if I were to edit this page and take a look at the structure, you'd see that structure reflected in the Divi builder. And so I'm looking at the second area here, this main section that had the white background, and then 2 rows. Rows are the green things here. Each with 3 columns. That's what a row is. It's the main organizational element, and you can support various column structures. For example, if at any time you want to change a column structure, you can click the column structure icon here and get all the different column structures that rows support. So I have a 3-column row right now. If I want to change this to a 4-column row, for example, I could do that and add another blurb like that. And rows support various options as well. So if you bring up the row options, you're going to get a bunch of different stuff organized into 3 different tabs: the general settings, the advanced settings, and then custom CSS. Generally, everything you need to use a row and to use it well is in the general settings. But if you want some extra control, I want to kind of go above and beyond and customize the row a bit, you can head over to the advanced design settings, which has all kinds of great options. And if you're more of a developer and you don't want to use our design controls, well, then you can kind of input your own custom CSS in here, targeting the before and after pseudo elements, as well as the main element, which is the row itself. But in this tutorial, I'm just going to give you a basic overview of all these different row settings and kind of how they can be used together to create some really unique layouts. Using rows are kind of like the best way to diversify the content on your page, because they really just control how everything is organized. The modules that are themselves kind of the size and the shape and the position of the modules themselves on your page are kind of dictated by the rows. And so rows are very important when kind of creating a good flow on the page. And so first let's take a look at some of these basic options. So I'm going to delete the other row. Now I just have this 4-column row that I created with 4 different blurb modules inside of it. And I'm just going to update the page really quick so you can see what we're starting with here. And view the page. You can see here's this white section in the single 4-column row with 4 blurbs inside of it. So let's take a peek at these options. I'm going to open up the options tab, and the first option you see is make this row full width. What this does is it allows the row to break from the standard content width. So by default, every section and row on the page, except for a full width section, is limited to the content width that you define in the customizer, or the default content width of the theme. But if you'd like to break this and let the row extend to the full width of the browser, then you can do that by clicking this. So if I say make this full width and save, you're going to see that change reflected on the page here. So I'm going to refresh, and you're going to watch these blurbs extend to the edge here. Oops, I forgot. I accidentally duplicated this. Let me delete that. And refresh again. And you can see these modules are getting close to the edge here. So one thing you can do with this effect, this full width effect, is create a full width image gallery of sorts. So I'm going to show you how to do that, which is kind of one of the main use cases for this full width row option that I'm showing you now. So I'm going to go ahead and delete all these blurbs, and instead I'm going to insert some images. So I'm going to insert an image module. I'm going to put a different image inside each of these columns. So I'll choose a different image for each. Okay, so I now have a full width row with an image inside of each of the 4 columns. So once again, I'm going to head and update this. We can take a look, refresh the page. So those blurbs are going to be deleted, and in their place I've added 4 images, as you can see. So, and you can also see that the width of the images, the width of the row is much bigger than the rest of the page, so everything else kind of stops at 1080 pixels. This keeps going to the edge. But we can push that even further by kind of delving even deeper into the row options, which brings me to the next option I want to talk about, which is the gutter width option. And what this does is reduces the spacing between each of the columns. So you can either increase that spacing, or in this case I actually want to decrease it all the way down to nothing, so that those images end up touching each other. And so I'm going to take this gutter width and bring it all the way down to 1, which is the smallest gutter width, which will result in no space between each of the columns, and no space between the modules either. And I can also adjust the padding. So rows have padding by default above and below them, which kind of separates the content from each other. So usually you don't want, like text in 2 columns or 2 rows touching each other. You want some space, so by default there's space. But in this case, I actually want them to be touching, so I want to remove that padding. So I'm going to set both these to 0. And it'll kind of give you an idea of what that does. So I'm going to update this, and when I do, you'll see that the images are now touching because I have reduced the gutter width to 0 on this column. So here you go, all of the images are touching. And I can even take that a bit further by editing this section and removing the padding from there as well. So go over to the top and bottom padding of the section, make it 0. Update, and then you can see how we've kind of transformed this column in this section entirely into something completely different. So now we have this full width column of images, row of images that touch each other, and extend the full width of the browser. And you can use this kind of technique with other things besides just images too, and which is going to bring me into some more settings in the advanced tab of the row. So I'm going to explore some of these advanced settings. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to change this. So change this column structure back to 1/2, 1/2. I'm going to get rid of all these images, and in their place I'm going to add some blurbs back, which is what we started with. So I'm going to add some blurbs. I'm just going to say, call it blurb title, the URL. It's going to go nowhere. I'm going to use an icon. I'm going to choose an icon here. I'm going to make the icon color, well, I'm not going to change that yet. Moving on, I'm going to make the text orientation center, and then I'm going to add some text in the blurb. Okay, so we've added back a standard blurb. I'm going to duplicate it and put it over into the other column there. So now we have two blurbs in a 1/2, 1/2 column. This is going to look similar to what we started with. But in this case, like I said, this text isn't going to look so good when it's touching the edges, right? So remember when we removed that padding from the row to let the images touch the edge of the sections above and below it? Well, here is why we usually have padding in those rows, because letting text touch other text kind of just looks funky. It's hard to read. So in this case, I'm going to use the custom padding inside the blurb to get rid of that. So I'm going to go into the blurb and adjust some of these advanced design settings to kind of get a different look. So I'm going to change the padding to 100 in all these areas. Change all the margins to 0. I'm going to give it a background color. So I'm going to change the background color to purple. Or let's see, let's do green. I'm going to change the text color to light. I'm going to change the header text color to light as well. Make the icon font a little larger. And I'm going to save that. And then I'm going to duplicate it into this column here. And I'm going to change the background color of this one to something different. So let's make it about orange. Okay, so I've added some modules, some blurb modules into this section. And because I've added padding on the inside of the module, it's going to get a similar effect to that image we had earlier, but instead this time the modules themselves are taking up the entire space, and we get that whole full width feel. So that's another way to kind of utilize that full width row option that I was referring to either. But let's step back a bit and think of another way to use that. So instead of adjusting the blurb, what I can do is actually, let's start from scratch here. So I'm going to clear this layout and show you another way to get a similar effect. So I'm going to load my pre-made layout, and I'm going to make this row full width just like I did before. I'm going to remove the gutters and the padding. Okay, so now we're back where we started before I explored the blurb options. Still looking at this full width row and gutter option combination. Like I said, we've removed the gutter widths and we removed the padding, and now everything's kind of squished together. Well, another thing we can do is actually put that padding back. So let's go back and delete our custom padding here and save. And what that's going to do is make it so those modules aren't touching the edges of the row anymore, so it adds that padding back. And another thing we can do is go into the row and explore some of the advanced row settings. So this is what I want to touch on next, which is the advanced settings. And there's a lot more here. In fact, there's so much here, it's almost too much to cover. So I'm just going to pick a few options that are really relevant to what we're trying to do now.
which is create a really nice full width effect. And another way to do that is to actually assign background colors to each individual column. So you'll notice in the advanced design settings of the row module, not only do you have the custom padding option, but you also have custom background colors. So I can assign background colors directly to the column itself rather than assigning it to the whole row or the module. So I can make the first column purple, I can make the second column green, and the third column blue. And then I can even increase the padding as well. So if I want to create that kind of block look, I could bring up the padding in all these areas. So maybe I want to do like 200 on the top, 100 or maybe like 80 or so on the right, and kind of duplicate that everywhere. And let's save and exit and see what this looks like. So what I've done here is I've added padding to each column, the column itself, not the row, and I've added custom background colors to those columns. And now you're going to see the effect, which is this kind of classic full width row effect. And as you extend the browser and make it smaller, it all adapts to the browser size. In this case, I'd probably want to adjust these modules as well and make the text color a little bit lighter and whatnot to really kind of polish this style. And I probably want to remove the padding from the sections as well. But yeah, that's another example of how to use some of these advanced settings to get some completely different effects that were never possible before we added these row options. Another classic look would be to do the 1/2 look. Then I could get rid of this, duplicate it, maybe switch these background colors around. Maybe make this one green and this one purple. Remove the padding from here. That's good. Okay, we'll save. Now instead of 3 columns, we have 2 full width 1/2 columns, as you see there. And you probably want to remove the padding from these rows as well, so going back to that option which I mentioned earlier, just so everything butts up against itself and creates this like really seamless effect. And there you go. So yeah, it's just one of the effects you can create with these row setting combinations. And the basic idea is you make the row full width, which makes it extend to the edge of the browser, and then you remove the padding from the sections and the row itself, and then you add padding to the columns inside of the rows, so that there's kind of space between the content and the edge, and then you can kind of create these really cool like block layouts, and you can get much better looking effects than this. Obviously I've kind of chosen some random colors, but you can do some really cool things when you add background colors to these background images to the columns. So like, not only can you add a background image to a section in a row, you can add background images to the individual columns within rows now. So you really have just full control over everything within the section. And there's so much you can do when you start playing with these settings. So let me just go through some more of the settings just to make sure I touch on everything. You can also use a custom width. So instead of making it full width, if you want to make it just like a little bit bigger than your standard content, you can do that as well. So by default it's 1080, but if you want to make this row just a little bit bigger, you can just drag it out a little bit. If you do assign custom padding, we don't usually apply that custom padding to the mobile responsive version of your site, just because if, let's say you've added 300 pixels of padding and it looks great on desktop, it's probably not going to look good on mobile, but maybe in your case it does. Maybe you just add just the right amount, in which case you can choose to apply that custom padding on mobile. And then back to these advanced settings, I already went over to the background color, but you can add background images, background videos to the rows. You can use parallax effects in your background images, and you can apply custom padding to each individual column within the row. And then finally, there's custom CSS as well. So If you really want full control, you don't want to try to use our design settings, you want to just get your hands dirty with some CSS, and you don't want to create a child theme to do that, you want to just apply some custom CSS to this particular row, well then you can do that right in here. You can even create pseudo elements, so we have the before pseudo element as well as the after pseudo element, and then just the main row itself where you can add CSS. So that's a basic overview of the row settings and kind of what you can do when you combine them in creative ways.